According to the Brookings Center for Universal Education, by the year 2050, Africa will be home to about 1 billion young people, 1 billion youth. Now, the economic contributions of this youth population will depend on the skills they possess. And of course, that places a premium on education, which is where I would like us to start now. Do we have an articulated vision for education in Nigeria that will prepare youths for the labor market of the future?
ICT will remain and continue to remain as the major driver for economy in the sub-Saharan Africa. It is a very essential tool for growth. It is a very essential tool for empowerment. So for Africa to develop, okay, I'd bring this closer to home. For Nigeria to grow and develop, we have to embrace ICT, and we need to start to train our youth to be empowered in the area of ICT so they can become creative, productive, and be able to contribute to the global economy. Now, to your question, you said, do we have an articulated vision of what we want to take, how we want to empower our youth? Now, as you said already, Nigeria has, and Africa has the highest youth population in the world. In about 2020, about 122 million young Africans will be entering the labor workforce. Are we prepared adequately for this incoming huge numbers of youth into the economy? No, we're not. Are we training them in the right way? Do we have the right match of skills to jobs? No, we don't. An organization like SAP and a few other organizations are working very hard in partnership with NGOs, government, and any other willing to work that shares the same vision as the group that I've just mentioned, to ensure that the youth of Africa are not propelled into the workforce, but that they're adequately prepared for the workforce. So an organization like SAP and a few other organizations are already thinking, and a few governments are already thinking in this line, and they're working towards ensuring that the youth are adequately prepared.
But I'm thinking that still at the government level, perhaps at the national level, shouldn't there be a policy to drive this so that everyone can buy or key into it?
Yeah, I addressed that at the private level. At the governmental level, we need to encourage the government and continue to speak out and talk about the need for education to be part of the curriculum. We need to start to, advocate for ICT, coding, and every other ways of learning and consuming technology to be introduced to the curriculum as part of the education of young kids. If you want to become fluent in any language, you need to start to learn the language from a very young age. So what we need to start to say to the government, not only in Nigeria but across Africa, is that we need to introduce technology, coding, ICT learning into the education of our kids, our youth, so they can become creative and become productive in the future.
I was going to ask you, when you think about the future labor market and the skills that will be required, what do you see?
There's a big mismatch currently between the kind of jobs that exist and the kind of education that we're giving these young kids. We don't have enough preparation in place to make sure that we're able to cope adequately for the future workforce or market. We need to start to prepare right now to ensure that we put in place the necessary ingredients that would help the emerging workforce or the growing population to be able to get into jobs that with the right skill sets. What's driving unemployment in Nigeria, for example, is not because the jobs are not there. It's because those finishing from university, graduating, and trying to enter the workforce are not adequately prepared for the workforce, for the jobs that exist out there.
So what are we focusing on? Because I'm curious to know your perspective on this, because there are different sides to the story, or different arguments, as it were. Are we building an economy that wants to produce job seekers, those who would have the skills and then seek jobs in the future, or one that encourages entrepreneurship? I'm thinking that there are two paths, two roads to go. But what do you think, in your experience or from your perspective, that we should be focusing on?
We should be focusing on empowering young kids in the line of entrepreneurship, so they're able to create and innovate and be able to come up with ideas that would lead to creating something. I guess the way we raised here is that you don't really have to make anything, somebody will make them anyway. You just need to have enough money to buy these things. So having our government put in place the proper framework and the proper policies to ensure that progress is made towards encouraging young kids and even teachers, because these kids are, they go to school, they learn the traditional way and try to get good grades, and so they can get into a good job. But these jobs are not there. So if the jobs are not there, are we empowering these young kids enough to be able to create the jobs so they can be self-employed and self-reliant? So I think we're way behind the West at the moment in terms of creating the path to entrepreneurship for our young kids, and also in ICT education. The way we teach ICT currently is not the way that, it's not the best way for young kids and even adults to consume ICT education.
Why do you say so? And could you give us an example, or just tell us the way that we should be doing it instead?
Okay, the current way we do it is still the same old way, traditional way of a teacher standing in front of a classroom, teaching, and the kids learning by rote and regurgitating whatever they've been taught to pass the exam. The way it should be taught is for kids university students will go to university, they do projects, and these projects are not marketable. These projects lead to no end. So you just write your theory, do some little practical work, and that's your project. We want to see some final output, some projects that can be incubated, that we can move to market. So I think the way it should be, education should be, ICT education should be taught to students, it's for them to have a learning outcome, for them to have an end product. It's not just enough to go in there and do all the theory and memorize and pass, but you need to be able to, do something creative and come up with a reasonable output. Okay,
Olajide, I know that coding is gaining traction in Nigeria, and I know that more and more people are getting on acquiring the skill. But just give us a sense of what that space looks like right now in terms of how much progress we've made so far, and if we perhaps continue, if we're making if we're gaining enough momentum, and what the future would look like for those who have gained, who have that skill.
Yeah, for Nigeria, it's looking very good. And last year, 2015 actually, we started Africa Code Week in Nigeria. And I'll just give you a brief background on that. Africa Code Week is a continent-wide program aimed at empowering young kids and teachers in the area of ICT so they can become creative and innovative. So in Lagos alone, last year, we trained 160 teachers. And we came to Abuja a week later to train 120 teachers. In total, about 300 teachers. And those 300 teachers trained 22,000 young kids within a period of 1 week. And from there on, Lagos State decided they want to make this sustainable. They created their own version of the Africa Code Week, which is called Code Lagos, to try to sustain the program. So it's looking good. This year, in Akure, Ondo State, we trained 209 teachers in August. Just yesterday at Base University, we trained 451 teachers. You can imagine, the effect that this would have on the education landscape in the FCT area, because some of the teachers came from as far as Niger State, Nasarawa, Suleja, and a lot came from Abuja. And it was a good opportunity for private school teachers to mix with public school teachers and cross-fertilize ideas, and so it's going in the right direction with the help of organizations like SAP, Google, and UNESCO, and a few other organizations supporting ICT education. So I know there's so much that we can still do and that we still need to do, but I think we're going in the right direction.
I was going to ask, what is the big picture? I know you're the national coordinator for the Africa Code Week, and I know that perhaps you're hoping that the numbers will grow in terms of those who acquire the skills for coding, but what is the big picture for you?
The big picture for us, for me and for my organization, is to ensure that every child in Nigeria is reached. We don't want any child to be left behind. And that's why we took this out of Lagos this year and took it as far as Akure, Ondo State. And we plan to continue to go into the hinterlands of Nigeria so we can reach more kids.